maldito me la va a deber. Porque yo soy indio, no debo de saberlo. Pasa ya mi tierra, no debe de suceder. Milicia del masacre, es injusto que no ven a mi pobre gente que no se lo merece.
Okay, hello and welcome to Itz Happenin show, community grassroots media for the people, by the people. I'm Joese.
I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
We are your host indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow, whoa, damn. Wow, watch out, Mariah Carey.
All right, It's happening is a movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, then elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
Itz Happenin is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight back.
Oomph. Oh, stretch some.
Yeah.
Yes, that.
You could be anywhere in the world right now with us. So we thank you because of you.
It's happening. Woo! Man, we have some news today, huh?
Just a little bit.
Little bit.
Little news.
It's
nothing crazy.
Yeah, I think we're gonna change it up today. It won't be top stories. It's gonna be top story. You know what I'm saying? You'll
Top
see.
story.
Just one gigantic story.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody that joined us here today. Please share the video. It's going to be a good conversation. I think it's one that has been on everybody's mind. The insurrection.
The insurrection.
Yeah. Vanilla Isis comes for you. Yeah, there's all sorts of very funny. But it was not funny what happened. But we have to laugh at some things because that's what's keeping me sane these days. I tell you. But before that, of course, can't say enough about all things that happened with the Georgia election. That was not a resounding, but a very historic victory for the two candidates there. The first black man to be elected to the Senate in Georgia with Reverend Waldorn.
I have to look that up. Warnock.
Waldorf. That's a salad.
Oh, that's a delicious salad. I'm gonna prepare that for tomorrow's supper.
Memo to self.
Note to self.
Yeah. Awesome. We're
by arugula.
Yeah. So which means that the Democrats will now have the tie-breaking vote with Kamala Harris, the vice president elect. So in effect, Mitch McConnell has been dethroned.
Oh yeah. Watch out, Mitch.
Great news, and for so many different reasons. So yeah, good job, Stacey Abrams and all the folks that went out there and were calling and did the most, and like black folks, people of color, Asian folks, all the folks that came out and voted and really have shown that how Georgia is no longer a solid red state.
Yeah, it flipped then, because Biden won. Did Biden end up winning that, or? Do you remember?
Yeah, he won Georgia. And
okay, so pretty much flipped over the last 4 years.
Right. Yeah. That was huge. Georgia played a huge role in victory there, and of course that was part of the whole phone call. It was a perfect phone call. Where's 11,000 extra votes? It's got it. They got it. Can you please?
Please. Hello. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't think that helped. But but now the Democrats have all the power, and we'll see what they do with it. because I remember this happening with Obama, and it was very unpleasant what occurred. So like, the ball's in your court. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Get $2,000 checks.
History will show us that history trends will dictate perhaps them losing at least one of the chambers, if not both of them, in 2 years.
Right. So
massive backlash, white lash, that will happen after the events that transpired in this here hashtag rigged election. Crazy stuff. We are
good
living,
times.
ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Really do, but yeah. So that was pretty huge. But and COVID mass testing sites are opening up. Dodger Stadium, among other places. The Padres Stadium, San Diego. I saw a big old line near the Angel Stadium today. So a lot of these places that were COVID testing are now becoming vaccination zones. Did I say testing in the beginning? Yeah, they're
COVID
sites, mass vaccination sites. So yeah, hopefully folks are on the list. Get yourself vaccinated. But the rollout has been very slow. Not enough money. Big gaps in the CARES Act funding, so people are not getting vaccinated as quickly as they were supposed to be. So that is an ongoing issue.
Indeed.
To reality.
Oh yeah.
To reality. Yeah, so we're gonna have no guests tonight. It's just Dylan Thompson and
just us.
Yeah, and Edgar busting out some videos and some graphics.
Buttons. He's got buttons.
He's got sound effects and stuff. Meow meow meow. Confused cat. Like. Yeah,
we high tech up in here.
That's confused dog. Confused dog.
Yeah, no more Trump impression, I guess. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
we gotta come up with new voices. Gavin Newsom here. Want to make sure all California citizens. Okay. I mean, I feel like that's not even that far off from what his voice actually sounds like.
I saw his press conference today.
Yeah.
Something.
Hope he's doing well. Hope he's discovered some mentholated, some kind of droplet. Anyway,
I'm dying over here. Been months.
Been asking for a glass of water. The drought is over. As far as I understand. Yeah, maybe they're using it to put out some of these fires. Not quite sure, but yeah, why don't we get into the top story? The story
that has inundated all of our news feeds on all of our platforms. Can't unless you've been living under a rock. There was an attempted coup d'etat from the Ku Klux Klan, has been called by some. Also, as I mentioned, Vanilla ISIS.
Vanilla ISIS
individuals that stormed the Capitol after, of course, a rally, Stop the Steal rally that was organized by Trump and his campaign. And then they, at the end of it, Trump and all of his Trumpianness said, we got to be strong. We cannot be weak. We will never concede. We will never surrender. And everybody march over to the Capitol.
He said he'd be there with them.
Be there with you. In spirit.
From a bunker on the other side of town. Yeah,
I will be rooting so hard for you guys. I'm gonna be like, yay, good for you, good job, guys.
Oh my God.
And so yeah,
so that was around noon or 1 p.m. when the speech ended, and maybe even before it ended, people started leaving this park. It's about a 20-minute walk to the Capitol building. So they went to go where the Senate and House are with Congresses. And it looks like they basically just started pushing past police. It was very bizarre to see the protesters just like pushing a gate up against cops and like grabbing cops by the face mask and just pushing them around and stuff, and the cops kind of fighting back, like throwing back punches and stuff, but largely kind of overall just receding and giving up ground, because there wasn't a big presence, right? And that they went on for hours like that. I mean, it must have been around like 3 p.m. where there's actually a lot of protesters, like rioters, in the Capitol building right outside of the. Oh, and I don't know if you saw stuff from that, but like when the congressmen were kind of stuck in the chamber, like, did you see how they rushed out all the senior members of Congress? And they left everyone else just to kind of fend for themselves in there for a while, right?
Luke Correa, he was like up there, like,
oh my God, hunkered
down, and it's like the man's a senior, just like, as well. He should have been ushered out, like, yeah. And as our engineers is showing some of the footage from this event, so you can see how truly, anarchist. Like it was. I'm like,
oh my God.
I thought you said that only the violent rioters were the BLM folks. Well, you showed America that you still got a little mob riot in you, Trump peoples. Yeah. So it's and they were chanting, "Kill Mike Pence, where's Pelosi?" Really just disturbing scenes in so many ways.
Yeah.
All the police being completely overwhelmed, and investigations and into this issue into this matter have shown that they were completely understaffed. They were staffed as if it was just a regular Saturday afternoon, and not that there was millions or hundreds of thousands of people organizing nearby. But it just kind of shows the institutional racism that is when protesters are facing off against police, and the amount of over policing that goes against them, and how they were almost in many cases just letting folks in. And I will say not all of them. There was many police officers that fought against them and were trying to keep them from entering, but it was just way too much. I think there was a picture there of Clayton Bixby there with the with the Trump supporters there. No, the meme game has been just crazy, on fire.
Oh my God!
Another meme that showed is like, oh, I'm glad that this happened, because it shows that the Blue Lives Matter was really about just attacking Black Lives Matter, and having them being beat up by the police. You all obviously showed you're not very much about Blue Lives, because as it turned out, there was one police officer that was killed, one who was allegedly hit by a fire hydrant, another one that was there that day and committed suicide. I'm not sure if that day or the day after, but yeah, it was all sorts of irony, for sure.
Yeah, kind of unexpected, and I don't know if that played into why there was an underwhelming presence of police, because normally, like, there's a warmer relationship between the police and Trump supporters. Like, typically you'll see Trump supporters yelling positive things at cops and stuff.
Yeah.
But in this conflict, there's definitely there's actually a lot less solidarity on that end, right? And I just want to add to what you're saying, how many people were arrested that day? 61. Okay, think about that. 61 people arrested the day of, mainly for I don't even think for terrorism or anything like that. More just unrest related things. But then look at, there's all these this article from CNN, great, but of all these other events where LGBTQ activists on October 8th in 2019, 133 arrested outside the US Supreme Court, 147 climate change protesters in January of last year, for something far less, right? That's the point. And very far fewer people there at these events even. So the numbers are betraying that something more is going on, potentially even that there was some, maybe there's an article saying backup was denied from a former Capitol Police chief.
Right.
Even because they've known about that this rally was coming, right?
Correct. Yeah, And Michael Moore went on Facebook Live yesterday, and he really went to town and said how it really felt like this was, I don't. I'm not gonna say that he said it was an inside job, but that there was like like entities within that were guiding them and even helping them. I mean, I saw today that they finally suspended two of the police officers, one that took a selfie, another one, the one that was guiding them around.
Right.
But also important to note that the Latinos for Trump outreach individual, the president or whatever, Latinos for Trump, was also arrested beforehand, and he had like a bunch of guns and stuff in his car. With that, there was another individual that during the or after the siege, the insurrection, that was found like his car full of explosives, Molotov cocktails. I think a couple of like like a material to make some low some bombs, guns. This could have been a lot worse. Is my whole point. It's just if it would have brought at least one bomb and just chucked it into the chambers, like like they would have killed like dozens. So it's really just troubling. And another thing that they mentioned was that Representative Clyburn from Georgia, I believe, or no, South Carolina, this African American gentleman, congressman. They found his secret office, so not his office with his name on it. They found his office that did not have his name on it, which is kind of shows you like very easily somebody with inside of the Trump administration or something could potentially have slipped the map of the Congress and all the offices, because they knew exactly where to go to. And it was just really scary that all went down. Luckily, they were able to usher most of them out of the chambers. But if they would have found Pelosi or Mike Pence, like they wanted to kill him. They had gallows, a noose. Like they would have hung people, and like God. It just,
I was gonna say there was a rare moment of empathy for Lou Correa on the show. Let that be explicitly noted in the record.
I don't know if Edgar, you can show the video or a little bit of him getting hassled by the folks at the airport. Listen, I as I've told folks, I'm supportive and of Lou and friends of mine and so on. And they know that my issues with him, but I might dislike Lou, on policy levels and for so many different reasons. But I hated seeing these individuals harassing him and like getting in his face without a mask, and putting him in danger of contracting COVID, for starters. But secondly, like intimidating him and harassing him, like talking about like the that it was obviously an Antifa and that the Minion, but then he was also like getting in their face. He's like he comes from a different era, like I'm from the streets. You saw Street Lou like just squaring up on that dude. Good on you, Lou. Like, because if that fool would have hit him, then like that fool would have gone to jail. But apparently, according to my sources, they blamed him, and they said that Lou was engaging them and inciting their ire towards him. And I just like I couldn't imagine that's what happened. They saw that he probably had his little pin, and they're like, oh, this guy, but so that was just not good to see, even if I don't agree with his positions on so many things.
There you go. See, we're the fairest show on the internet. Okay.
Lindsey Graham also got harassed, and there's like, you're gonna hear from us everywhere you go now, Lindsey. And so right. So, but we'll talk about the aftermath a little bit. But yeah. So all these things happen. People sitting on Pelosi's seat. That guy got arrested.
Yeah. A lot of the characters have been.
And Jelly, I think it was his name. All these.
The guy with the horned helmet and the face paint, and that guy ended up being like a QAnon follower who's been at multiple like Trump demonstrations. Like these people just like flew over from wherever they live, around the country. So far, no one's been identified as Antifa. There was like a rumor. It wasn't us. Antifa was suddenly there.
Yeah, they were saying that that guy, the horn guy, was Antifa because he was seen at a BLM protest or in Arizona or some shit. But I'm just like so beside myself with this thought that they can't even take credit for their own insurrection. Like these,
Oh my
have you
God.
seen the same videos as me? These were clearly Trump supporters. What
Yeah.
Antifa is gonna like go, wear like buy all this Trump gear, and
I mean, it might have happened. Let's see some evidence of it. But dude, I don't think that's the primary motivating cause of what happened here. That's all I'm saying. Like,
no.
it wouldn't be beyond possibility. There's just no evidence of it right now.
It was a white mob for the most part. There was a couple of black people of color, but like they interviewed them different, like I think Sky News or different, foreign, journalists that were inside were interviewing them and saying like, why are you here? It's like, they did this to us. We're peaceful, but we've had enough. Like this is it. Like we're taking back our country. This is America, and
Ma'am,
it was rigged.
what happened to you?
And so that's just where we're at in America. We're
So
excited, and so
What happened? You were trying to go inside.
yeah.
and maybe could I backtrack a little bit just to wrap up like the whole factual account, because you'll remember in the start of the day when Trump was giving his speech, he was under the impression that Mike Pence could somehow obstruct the count of the electoral votes and somehow hand Trump the presidency. He was just probably mistaken about that. He's just wrong that Mike Pence could even do that legally. So Mike Pence didn't, right? And so these protests disrupted the vote of the electoral, like the vote of the electoral college votes that would make Biden the president. Just delayed it, and I guess they stayed up like all night passing stuff.
3 a.m, 3:30. They got back into the chambers at 8 p.m. I believe, after the chamber cleared out, and
right, and that took probably till like 4 or 5 p.m. when finally, like, not even the Capitol Police, but some other, maybe a federal agency, finally got back. How many hours was that? Like, is that a coincidence? Like, why is it taking 6 hours to bring what would be standard procedure at any other protest? Like, it's very suspicious.
I'm Michael Moore, and I agree with him. I was convinced that either Trump or other people knew that these things were going to happen. They basically understaffed and denied the National Guard to be able to be there, because they didn't want to have a bunch of National Guardsmen there during the Capitol or during their rally, because
right. Just for an image.
For image, or but it was a huge mistake, and so they two of the police chiefs for the Capitol building from the House and the Senate, both that were asked to resign, they promptly resigned. But this was not this did not happen without some loss. So obviously that woman was shot when she tried to break to climb in through the window. The Secret Service was like, nope.
Yeah, there was a line, because it's like, I guess the police gave up a lot of ground because being outnumbered and unprepared or whatever it happened to be, or friendly. And but there was a line that they wouldn't allow the people into the chamber where the congressmen were, because that's really what they're kind of swearing to protect. They let them take the building, but that's where someone was shot, right? At that point, when they tried to enter that room where the congressmen were.
But they ultimately did enter the room, as you saw people repelled down. And
yeah, I think maybe was it after because at some point the congressmen were escorted out of the room. So I guess eventually they did enter the room. Yeah, but repelling.
Yeah, it's it could have been just so much worse. A little bit ago, Edgar showed a video of this woman saying that she was mazed. Like, excuse me, man, what are you doing? And, what happened? It's like, we tried to go in there, and I put one foot in, and they pushed me and they mazed me. It's like, well, why did you try to do that? Because it's a revolution.
That's how you do revolution.
Yeah, hello, what do you mean? Why did I go break into the Capitol building? We're having a fucking revolution here. We're
revolution doy.
Pansies, we're here to do God's will, because God sent us Donald Trump. And you are evil, and we must do everything in our power to make sure that evil is removed. So
that seems kind of like what's
but so just to go, There was a police officer that was killed, like I mentioned. That woman that tried to break in. There was one that allegedly shot himself in the groin. Is the word.
No.
It's just a bad way to go.
Yeah, someone was trampled, I guess.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, and the irony there, of course, was that she had a "Don't Tread on Me" flag.
Yeah, it's not good. Ouch. Yeah. But I mean, the arrests are escalating. Like, they're actually starting to charge them with like domestic terrorism and other things, according to a congressman.
Right. So 90 arrests, right, and 2 police suspended. So
for helping them. Yeah. That's crazy, dude. But what else here? There were other characters. I mean, I think all these zip tie people, they're all like right wing kind of activists. Yeah, I was surprised to see that Republicans. There was an effort to question the election results in several states, such as like Arizona and Pennsylvania. I think that was happening as these riots were occurring, and it was interrupted. And when they came back, I believe, I don't know if most, but some of the Republicans backed down from supporting that. But still, like 6 senators and 100, almost like over 100 House Republicans also made objections to vote counts even after that, right? So it's like adding a little bit of a legitimacy to what was happening. Like, but I mean, at least some people backed down. Was that the silver lining?
Yeah. Yeah. Some people, switched their vote or removed their objection because if I understand correctly, they needed to have, for each objection to certifying each state, they had to have 1 House and 1 Republican senator. And before the riots, they did have them, but then afterwards they did not.
They didn't. They only had enough for like Arizona and Pennsylvania, and all other debate on states like such as Michigan were ignored because, yeah, like what you said,
they had 100 people, 100 or so congressmen that were behind this, even after all these things happened. So, yeah, I think that a lot of folks like Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are being really, under scrutiny and being pressured to resign. Of course, they're not going to, but they're trying to make a name for themselves because now the name of the game is who takes on the mantle of this energy that is the Trump movement.
Right.
Now that Trump is out, there's and kind of moving into like the future of what folks are trying to do is impeach him yet again. And today they attempted to get the 25th Amendment to be pushed by the cabinet and Mike Pence, which was very much like a non-starter, long shot as it was, and they poured cold water on that real quickly. So that's not going to happen. So the next case is for impeachment, but we'll see what happens. But what's coming? The protest, the veteran with the zip ties, is his ex-wife reported him to the feds. So I thought that was rich. Yeah. It was a retired Air Force lieutenant colonel who's one of the Capitol insurrectionists last week can thank his ex-wife for his arrest. Burn.
Revenge.
Took half his money and put that fool in jail. Like, if that's not like, it's like sweet vindication, I don't know what is.
Oh my God. Man. Well, maybe I can touch a little on like some of the other events that have transpired after, mainly in like the marketplace and social media. Of course, you've all heard that Trump was banned from Twitter, which was interesting because that resulted in a kind of a 12% market share loss, which translates to $5 billion market value loss after they banned Trump from the platform. So, which is kind of like, you have to kind of be like, I mean, should Twitter get much respect for this move? I mean, it's almost kind of like too little too late. Like, the bomb already exploded. Like, look, there's a reason they haven't like done this previously, they'd be losing billions of dollars, and because Trump's a master at social media, he generates a lot of interest, a lot of controversy. Obviously, he was able to, on basically no evidence, stir up a riot in the Capitol. And so now these guys are coming in when it's like the bomb already went off, and they're like, oh, now it's too late. We're going to arbitrarily decide to suppress this freedom of speech at this stage, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's kind of, I don't know. I think that this probably wasn't the right way to go about it. Like, I think they could have been way more proactive, right?
Yeah. Before I mention that, I want to mention Eugene Goodman, the black officer that saved the yeah, so say his name, because he in his astuteness was able to kind of guide the folks away from one side of the house, the chambers, and towards away from folks that could have been really hurt had they been found by the mob. So yeah,
smart move.
There was heroes that day, and that guy is very much a hero. You know, but there was a lot of horrible, trash people that just the worst. But yeah, man, this is a big conversation. I think that the left is really grappling with it. There's good comments and opinions and thoughts about it on from different people. Folks are very much saying that this is, like you said, too little, too late. They allowed this, but Twitter, for a long time have been flagging in particular his post about election rigging as like disputed, and they had mentioned that they were gonna like probably suspend him for too many violations, and they would have suspended anybody for this many violations for this many months or many weeks as he has. So it's not just like them being mean to Trump. It's like this is what they would have done to anybody that would have been flagged this many times. But yeah, the question about how much power should big tech have over our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech, so this is a tricky one for me. Here's what I'll say: if ISIS or the Osama bin Laden's crew, it's the Taliban or whatever, started posting on Facebook about insurrection and rioting and taking over the government, like they would be removed, and they have been actually removed. A lot of people have been removed over time for different reasons. Milo Yiannopoulos, Alex Jones, of course. There's been some folks on the left that have been demonetized, but I can't think of many people that have been actually removed. Although there have been Facebook pages that have been taken down for being flagged too many times. I have seen that. But yeah, after Hitler, Germany, was taken down, Germany said, no more Sieg Heil. You can't do that sign, in public. You can't wave Nazi flags in public because we just fought a freaking war and millions of people died. So that's canceled democracy. So it's ironic now that Angela Merkel is saying like, oh, this is bad. You shouldn't remove Trump. But I just feel.
Well, I mean, that's the thing when you compare to Osama bin Laden, though. I mean, I'll let you finish your thought there, but
yeah. So I'll just say that I'm not worried about this. I think it's the right thing to do at this moment. He's literally inciting riots. Should this be like a permanent ban? Maybe not. Maybe like he is allowed back in if he decides to comport himself in a better fashion. But in this moment, the country is a ticking time bomb. It's a Kindle box ready to like just go up in flames. One of the things to mention is that there's been a planned protest for 50 at the Capitals on January 20th, and so this is not in any way, shape, or form over. This anger, and he is just fomenting so much rage and violence that could really blow up. So I think this was the right thing to do for Twitter and Facebook. These are private companies. They have the right to do that, and we have the right to not use them and use other platforms. But last thing I'll say, I am worried about the power that big tech has over our data, over our elections, and so many other ways. Before people were saying that big tech was helping Trump by not removing his stuff and allowing him to spew his fake news. The last election, right? This time around, people are mad at Facebook for taking him away. So, yeah, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, just quick thoughts on the Twitter thing. Yeah, I'm not really against them banning Trump for just constantly drumming. Like, that's the thing. He didn't call for them to break in or do violence or anything, right? But what he was doing was calling on them to say that, like, the government's illegitimate and you guys are patriots. And it's you're setting up a situation where revolution or like an open revolt against the government would be the proper answer. Like, that's the other thing. Like, that's kind of maybe I'll save this for the end because I want to get into the analysis at the end. So, but let's just leave it at that. I think either Twitter should have had a standard policy that anyone could have known this would have happened to them, and not, this was a very arbitrary decision. So A, there could have been a policy in place, or B, we could have federal regulations that ensure like that there's a level or a fair way to manage these kinds of things. When platforms become so big, they're like ubiquitous to our lives now, you know? So, but moving on to other social media stuff, you heard that Parler, right? An alternate conservative social media platform. A bunch of people were jumping ship from Twitter going over there, but they're screwed because like all the big tech companies are all, it seems like they're basically working together to make sure that this market share that they lost isn't captured by anyone, I guess, because like Amazon suspended Amazon Web Services. They won't give it to Parler because Parler was used for some of the violent organizing, so like bringing zip ties or guns, like this kind of discussion that was far more obviously violent, right? And that's their motivation for saying that. But like, how much do we trust Jeff Bezos? Like, there's consequences to free speech and all of this. And now Parler's suing Amazon because they pulled support. So we'll see what happens.
It's like you can be. It's a nuanced, right? It's not like I'm like, yay, Mark Zuckerberg, he's like our hero, or Elon Musk, or all these rich fucks. Like, you know, these billionaires are part of the, you know, the problem in so many ways. You know, I believe it shouldn't exist. I agree with Bernie in that regard. Like, and because more importantly, like, why do they exist? Because of deregulation and the ability that we've given them to monopolize the communications. But, you know, it's the same, very similar to what's happening with mainstream media. Like, we should, a lot of folks have been talking on the topic of mainstream media, like the biased media regulations that were either removed or inputted by Clinton in the 90s. That made it so that the Fox News and this type of truthiness, like, you know, tilted,
alternate reality, facts.
It's like it's not news anymore. It's about getting more views and riling people up based on a tilted, you know, understanding about things. This is entertainment. It's not no longer news. It's like it's funny because you have to now call journalism investigative journalism when it's like attempting to be fair and balanced and really getting to like what the issue is, and just presenting it. Whereas now most of the news is very much tilted, and you know, and so to the credit of the Trumpers and the right, you know, it's like, yeah, MSNBC and CNN and you know, and ABC, they have a left-leaning kind of tilt, no doubt, you know, and so, but Fox News then has a crazy right, but now they've gotten outrighted, of course, by OAN and Newsmax and other that, you know, that have seen their viewership go down because, you know, these rabid Trump supporters now are jumping ship from them to OAN, just like they're jumping ship from Twitter and these other platforms on towards Parler, you know. And but listen, like we cannot have places where folks are literally actively coordinating violence in secret Facebook clubs, Facebook groups, or on Parler, whatever. We need to have some regulation in that. So if Google is saying like you all are allowing this type of actions to happen, well then guess what? You don't get to be on our, you know, on our app stores, and that's their right. So I can say like we should break down Facebook, but also say like I think it's within their right as a private company to, you know, try to regulate, Because what do we want to do? For the government to regulate? That's the whole 1984 analogy, which I hear being brought in, and it doesn't follow, because in 1984, the book, it talked about a government controlling all aspects of communication and being able to silence, at their will. That's not what's happening here. That's not what's happening here. We all have the ability, including Trump, to get on a freaking on a press conference and spew his stupidness. But no, he is wanting to use these platforms that should be regulated, and if we don't like him, then we should create our own platforms and places for us to share. But so that's what I'll say. But yeah, I'll read a couple quotes. Amazon worries me more, says Hallie. I just hope that this doesn't lead to more Patriot Act shit. I agree. We should not be pushing for more police state, and just because these people are the right wing folks now, like face recognition software and all these things that are like rampant in China and the UK, like that shit worries me as well here. They did that to WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks. Yeah. That's a tough one, of course. Julian Assange was recently denied. They denied extradition into America. UK did, and Mexico president was offered him asylum, and so, but I don't know. Like, it's a tricky situation with WikiLeaks actually gave out information, like classified information, names and addresses of people that whereas Edward Snowden tried really hard to go through everything and like make sure that nobody was put into danger. So I'm a team Snowden much more than I am a team Assange, but yeah, corporations have control over our lives and over our country and over our institutions and over our, communications. Is very problematic. But we did this. We allowed for these things to happen. Before it was MySpace, now it's Facebook. And then Facebook got overrun by by Instagram. Then Facebook was allowed to buy Instagram because they're like, oh, that'll be fine. Instagram is a little company. Like boom, like all the kids were like, Facebook's for boomers, for like we're the young people in Instagram. Now it's TikTok, and of course TikTok has been overrun by the young lefties that did all sorts of awesome stuff to the Trump campaign during the election. But yeah, it's a question we're gonna have to grapple, and we're gonna have to continue to grapple. Like, we give these companies, whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Google, we give them all the power because we buy all their products, and then we expect them to act right.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a yeah, we have culpability. I mean, that's why people are. I mean, I've had family members that want to get away from Google products, and I'm like, okay, I can't really argue with it. I mean, that's what part of what we need to be doing, I guess. I mean, maybe we got to get off Facebook Live and find other platforms.
We'll go on YouTube.
But yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's not like these big company or but we haven't even had control of the federal government. Like, when I say we, I say there hasn't really been a strong people powered movement in the federal government for a long time. So it's kind of like all of these technologies arose when we didn't have a lot of political power to even regulate them. So when they did make federal regulations regarding these kinds of apps, they were just said, oh, the company has no liability in anything. And then now this is where we are. So, but yeah, it's incumbent on us to change it, and either change it or suffer the consequences, I guess. But just quickly want to talk about some of the political response here. And I mean, this is probably a very shallow gesture, but apparently some big banks, let's list off some. So far, yeah, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Commerce Bank, and Marriott International. And even Google, Facebook, and other companies are going to cease political contributions for right now. And I think mainly it's tied to kind of these PACs that there's political action committees that are tied to Trump's campaign that's directly tied to organizing this event that led to the Capitol riot, right? So I think people are wary about what they're doing there. I don't know what else the gesture is. I mean, I feel like it's pretty hollow because it's going to just resume business as usual in a few weeks. But kind of a strange response. I don't know if you had any take on that.
Yeah, I think it's heartwarming.
Oh my god!
To see these rich millionaires and billionaires starting to use their power and pull the plug on these individuals that have been problematic for a long time. Tucker Carlson comes to mind, right? Like, as he's been, spewing his bullshit on Fox News and, continuing to peddle, like the conspiracy theories. I mean, saying that like Antifa and just crazy stuff. The election was potentially rigged. A lot of corporations have pulled the plug on him, and so you get enough corporations to pull the plug, then all of a sudden they can't function anymore, and then they're no longer financially beneficial to Fox, so then they get rid of him. I think maybe that's what happened to Glenn Beck. I'm not really sure. I know that what's his name that got ousted, O'Reilly, but he had scandal.
Yeah. Right.
Cost him a lot of money to over the years to settle with folks that were accusing him of things. But yeah, so, and in the case of politicians, I mean, you got to hit them where it hurts. Yeah. Perhaps on the left or people that are against some of these horrible, politicians. One way for us to fight back is to be able to get the corporate donors to stop donating to their campaigns, because maybe then they'll change their mind. So, so this is
it's a fair point. Yeah, it could poison Trump's brand for fundraising, though. I mean, he definitely didn't raise as much money as Biden did last time. So, I mean, like the establishment, I think, has been slowly resenting being under Trump, but kind of cooperating for the most part. But I think now that they see that they've broken through this light at the end of the tunnel, they're willing to just jump ship and just abandon it, while others try to cling to him to keep the momentum of his movement. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't give them too much credit, though. Similar to Lindsey Graham and Nick Mulvaney and Betsy DeVos, for heaven's sake. Like, that rats jumps ship when that damn boat is about to like go down, like the Titanic, is not courageous and is not commendable. It is merely the animalistic instinct of a freaking rat, to jump ship. So they get no applause and no, like from me. I mean, thank God that they did the right thing finally. And Lindsay was like, count me out. Enough is enough. It's like, now it's enough.
Now it's Well,
it's been more than enough.
Yeah,
it's been too much.
As I recall, Lindsey Graham was vehemently opposed to Trump before he won election, and then became a suck up for the last 4 years. And now it's enough. Okay, like how many times are you going to flip flop on this thing? Let's see him get reelected in 2024, and then Lindsey Graham will flip-flop again. But let's get to the judgment part, because now I want to make a bunch of moral judgments on what happened. So, I mean, basically...
We go through the political response of
sure.
Republicans and international. So, of course, the Dems are calling for, for impeachment, as we
removal from office.
This is great, because then if he were to truly be impeached by the House and removed by the Senate, and it could happen even after January 20th, it would deny him the $1 million a year that he gets to travel with this. It would deny him the Secret Service, detail that he would be, privileged to having. All other past presidents. Deny him $250,000 a year, which is like peanut money to, like, it's nothing.
He might need it though.
But more importantly,
finances.
Right? True. Importantly, he would be unable to run for public office ever again. That means no 2024 race, or campaign, and no governorship. Although it would be crazy for me to think that he would want to be the governor of any state, but maybe Florida. Because he does live there now, so who knows? But I do think that the Trump brand, going back to that point, has been tarnished in some ways. People are cutting ties. PGA Tour has said that they're not going to have their PGA golf tournaments at its casinos coming up. It had been supposedly going to have. So that was the Dems. Republicans, like we mentioned, a lot of them are jumping ship, although some are kind of trying to, uh, fill in that void in power, because it is a power vacuum now. Mitch McConnell has become the most powerful Republican, for the time being. But Ted Cruz and all of his opportunism and just evilness is, of course, going to try to like rally that Trump, base for him, and so will others. Rand Paul, that piece of shit as well, will probably try to do that as well. And then international, like we mentioned, there was admonishment from the the French president Macron. Oh, this is terrible. And we know about revolutions. Guillotine.
We're working on the Macron voice. Yeah, it's coming.
Sacre bleu.
I'm gonna get French hate mail now.
Even Trump's buddy, Russian President Vladimir Putin, spoke up in support of Biden and so on. But of course, China and Russia were like, "Hey, I thought this was democracy. What's up, Mister? Like, what's up with the coup? Looked like
damn.
a taste of their own medicine." Mm-hmm.
Hey-o.
Another like meme saying like, "Oh, America, like during quarantine can't like support the coups overseas, so they have to just do it in their own country." Oh. Latin America. Now,
they're isolating.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's.
Burn.
All right, going on to judgment. So
judgment. So I think when I'm hearing a lot of the response from the Democrats, one of the things I want to talk about is like why the Capitol riots were wrong, or why the insurrection was wrong. First, like hearing the word insurrection, I was like, is this kind of just like a buzzword and stuff? But then I looked up insurrection. It means a violent uprising against government or authority. So it's a totally fair description. But I just kind of want to, like, what is wrong about what happened? Because like when you think about what this country was founded on, we literally had a violent revolution to start the country, right? That it's like a sacred thing in any culture and like any society, any organization, any family, that if there's fundamental corruption, that you have to rise up, and maybe rise up outside of the rules that they've penned you in, and to restore justice. But like, so that's like the perceived illusion that a bunch of these people are under, right? They have bought into, without any criticism, Trump's claim that the election was stolen, right? And even though it's failed in every court, even in the Supreme Court decided not to take up the case, even though he appointed 3 of them, it's been just discredited and disproven. Like he continues with the it's become pretty much a conspiracy theory. Like, release a report that shows the evidence. Like, let's look at it, because so far, if you haven't done that, you haven't met the burden of proof to make these claims and to incite. Inciting these riots wasn't because he said go break down doors and cause a ruckus and like violently. Like, he didn't say any of that. But what he did is set up a situation where a bunch of people believe with conviction that the election was stolen, and that it's their sacred right as patriots to restore their democracy. That's what these people believe, right? So it's about your standard of evidence. Like, because here's the thing: if they were breaking down the Capitol doors and saying, we stop the wars, we need $2,000 checks, we need health care, we need investment in our country. Like, if it was for why haven't we stopped the war in Afghanistan? Why are we still in all these proxy wars? Like, why isn't anyone mad about like babies dying from sanctions and things like that? Like, there's actual things like that are worth fighting for, and there's clear corruption in our government. Like, I don't believe the government is functioning in the best interests of ordinary working people. They're doing it for the billionaires and the millionaires, like Bernie Sanders says, right? So at some level, it's like they're doing it for the wrong reason. And it's not that our government, the Capitol, is sacred, and that our government buildings, how dare they be desecrated? What was desecrated was a sacred right to invoke a revolution, right? You have to be correct on that, and when it's done. But here, so I'll yield the floor because I got out my main thing on that.
There we go. Yeah. You let it be known, brother.
Whoa.
Yeah. It is in our Constitution to be able to potentially overthrow our government if it is not representing, the will of the people. So that is a thing. However, in this case, the will of the people was that Joe Biden was to be elected, and so the will of the people would then, as a result of this insurrection, these riots by these white nationalists and violent Trumpers, that many of them, especially the ones that broke in, could in fact be called terrorists because they were acting in, engaging in acts of terror. And it's not just black and brown people or Muslim folks or Arab folks that, aspire to the level of terrorism. There's not, you don't have to behead people. You have, there's terrorism by definition is what happened at the White House the other day. So there is that to be said. I'm not gonna, cry over buildings, being, that have stood for slavery and the separation of families, and wars overseas that have killed millions of people in Iraq and Iran and Afghanistan and so on. So there is a lot to be angry about, and in fact, and folks should be. And so, the question I think as a movement on the left, or as a country, is like, how do we deal with these things? That doesn't mean that what happened yesterday, can be done. I do worry about, like the amount of crackdown that then, the the police state or the government is going to have now because of this, situation. It was way too easy for them to do that. And if they even had like an ounce of a strategy, and actual coordination, they could have done some serious harm. But it just showed you that it was just passion driven by, individuals that, like may or may not have known what they were doing. Although, I think I was just texted something that TYT is talking about, how there was 3 congressmen that potentially were 3 House Republicans that helped plan the U.S. Capitol attack. So I think that in particular is kind of like, this was potentially an inside job, that this was an attempted coup. And if it wasn't like they weren't trying to kill, or, they were trying to make as much noise as possible for them to be able to get what they want. And so, I am against violence, but at the same time, I am definitely for direct action. And so what kind of direct actions could we do as a left to be able to push for, the end of wars? But it just seems like, at the end of the day, white people, when they engage in these type of things, get treated way differently than people of color. And so it'll always come back to that, or ending the wars, will just, whether it was in Seattle, whether it's the Black Lives Matter movement that was trying to push for police reform, like how much reform did we actually get? Like a small amount in some places, none in other places, and in very few places, a lot. But even when we engage in direct action, like we don't get what we want. And so I'm still of the belief that we have to engage in the legislative process. We want to build a third-party movement in this country. Let's do it. Let's build up, the money. Let's build up the infrastructure, and let's build up the people power that actually wins city council races, school board races, governorships, state Congress, state assembly, and then it eventually, takes over, and has it. It's been done before. The Bull Moose Party by, Teddy Roosevelt was done, and he lost, but if you have a charismatic figure enough to be able to break the duopoly, then
that's what Trump did.
Right.
Weirdly enough,
like that's the funny thing about it, right? It's like why we had Trump is because the Republican Party, to their credit, they tried everything that they possibly could to deny that man, the nomination, but they didn't read the tea leaves. They didn't understand that that the country was, and the white people were very mad. After 8 years of a black man being in office. And so, Donald Trump was just fed into that anger, and was able to scapegoat Mexicans and, anarchists and Antifa.
But what's funny is, like, in the start in this campaign, he was pitting against Republicans, right? he was saying George Bush didn't protect you on 9/11, and he was destroying them.
Oh yes,
burn. So like he was dropping truth on the campaign, like many people do, and then it didn't really pan out in his presidency. But it's funny that at the end of his presidency, or like maybe he has somewhat continued to do this, but he's definitely pitted against his fellow Republicans. Like in that speech right before the riot, like he is talking about how there's a bunch of weak Republicans, the ones that wouldn't support him, his goals and stuff. So yeah, it's kind of crazy to see. Well, and I kind of bring that up because it's like he got a lot done by being oppositional in his party, and I'd kind of like to see some faction of the progressives that are willing to do that, because it's like that's where your power is. It comes from a popular mandate, not from like playing within the rules.
Yes, no, but like let's take a step back. What did the Trump movement come at the heels of? It rode the coattails of the Tea Party movement. And what was the Tea Party movement? It was like a legislative insurrection where dozens and dozens, not just 4, not just a squad of 6 or 8, or a progressive caucus that is like very like shy about really
yeah. There's a lot of people in the progressive caucus, though.
Yeah, although but it's like Hillary Clinton is a progressive, right? Or she claimed, like it's just on your badge, and be like, hey, like I'm with y'all. But when it comes,
okay, I got you.
You're not going to support Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So it's really important, and that's why like we have to like look at it like how did it happen and how could it happen on the left? Well, it could happen if we were to have a bunch of progressives that were to be able to take on, a Pelosi, what is his name? Shahid Buttar, like he was a progressive. He tried to take on Pelosi. Yeah. And a lot of progressives were helping him in San Francisco, and
didn't go well.
The beacon of liberalism or progressivism and
neoliberalism.
Obviously, they lost. We lost
badly
all over the place. AOC, which is now neo-progressive, of course, a sellout to all of these far left folks, and get to trash her and make fun of her when she says she fears for her life. Won't mention names. Former friends of the show, that would like, oh yeah, whatever. Or like you're afraid for your life. It's like, dude, you're just ridiculous. We have to build a legislative movement on the left that actually gets a large portion of progressive to run, because because that's what the Tea Party did. But then, of course, the Tea Party was funded by the Koch brothers, so then like it wasn't.
It's some help.
Grassroots movement, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, who is our big billionaire funder that is going to fund a progressive movement that is not really there? Their own best interest.
Yeah.
Not happening.
But I feel like we had a bunch of momentum with Bernie Sanders. Like he came out in 2016 and got a bunch of people involved, and then Justice Democrats happened, and then several key like squad members and different people were elected, but like since then it's kind of slowed to a halt. Like we've only seen like the election of maybe 1 or 2 more progressive people, and
Cory Bush and Paul Goodman,
right? And
6 people.
But it hasn't been this groundswell like maybe some people were expecting, and I don't know how to explain it exactly, but I know left people, you have to admit, like a bunch of the like really left people get really pissed off at Bernie Sanders and AOC and stuff when they play ball with Nancy Pelosi and stuff, or not, just but or Chuck Schumer or whoever it is, right? And like I just feel like, are those the people we need? Like, do we need to have someone more radical that appeals to the even far lefter people, or someone more moderate that appeals to like the more? I don't know what the answer is, but we haven't found the answer to getting this to be fairly popular, except for when, I don't know. It seemed like when Bernie was running a more oppositional campaign in 2016, that blew up. Like what was that about? That tapped into something.
Yeah. No, I if people want more, like if AOC is not their cup of tea anymore, if they need more, like far left, that are gonna like, just blow shit up, and then you should run those people and get them to actually win campaigns. Is all I'm saying. People were really quick to go after Nina Turner when she decided to run for
As a Democrat,
Democrat instead of like a People's Party. And I'm just like, listen, like I'm with her on the issues. What like let's build the infrastructure for a People's Party, but you're gonna trash her because she's legitimizing the Democratic Party and it's beyond reform. It's like we're not like being realistic about where we are as a movement, and are just like kicking and screaming in order to like think that we by doing that are gonna get what we want right now, and we just don't have the political leverage to do that. And so like Bernie Sanders is probably going to be the chairman of the what is it, the finance committee, a committee, the one that he's a part of. That's great. He didn't play ball with Biden because he's like like just so like, oh, Biden's going to be fine, and I agree with all these things. Like, no, he ran against them and he lost. And like a good loser, not a bad loser, we know what those look like. Like like a person that got his butt kicked for one reason or another. He just didn't have the votes. After Super Tuesday, and you can blame Obama and you can blame, Democratic Party establishment and stuff, but they pulled a fast one. But point being, there was not enough people who that in particular parts of the country that message resonated, like resonated in California, resonated in Colorado, resonated in other places.
Yeah.
In the Midwest, not so much. Outside of Vermont, not so much.
People were caring about who they thought would beat Trump, but maybe we can bring it back a little bit back to the judgment a bit, to say like who was at fault. I mean, obviously, I think Donald Trump is at fault, but it's not for the reason that like kind of maybe that you were saying earlier, like the Osama bin Laden. Like, yeah, if you like you were saying, like there is protected speech or unprotected speech, right? You can't yell fire in a crowded. The only time you could yell fire in a crowded like movie theater is if there's a fire, right? It has to be an honest thing. It has to be a real threat. It has to be something real, right?
Yeah.
So, but Trump didn't say go be violent. He said peacefully protest. But then he was dog whistling all the other stuff like our country has been stolen. So, I mean, yeah, he made an environment where extreme solutions were an answer to the problem because of his lies. Right? Because like if this was something else, like pretend like the election was actually stolen, wouldn't they all be correct? Like, I mean, or at least you might be nonviolent. I mean, but like all in all, considering like that there weren't that many injuries or deaths, really, all things considered. Like, I mean, it wasn't like they were just in there to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
what?
Totally. A lot of people, including myself, thought that Al Gore won the last election, or that election, right? People were mad, people protested, but at the end of the day, even Al Gore, conceded because for the betterment of the country, and that's how it's happened for the better part of 200 years until this time around. But yeah, I wonder if the left. If there was Twitter at that time, right? And if the left would have, gone online and said like this was a rigged election, like this, although there was a lot of people that went online and said not my president and this and that. Mm-hmm. But I just really think that it's just like the militant aspect of it that wasn't just not there. When it came to Al Gore versus George Bush, people were angry, people protested as it is their First Amendment right to do so, but there wasn't the kind of like, let's strap up and take, like take it to the Capitol buildings and, like take over them and stuff. Yeah, it's just different. It's just different. But I do wonder like how we grapple with these conversations about freedom of speech in modern society. At the underlying issue that I have is like we're not even on the same plane of conversation, us normal people are here, and these other folks, QAnon folks, are way the hell over here. So there's just no connect between the two.
Yeah.
Right. So if we're not even on the same plane and we're not agreeing to the same realities, then it's just it's the Wild West. Like I can't even reason within with you, because we're not following within logic and reason that binds us all together into this reality. Like, it's like we could all have a legitimate argument about why, the Florida fucked up the election for Al Gore and the hanging Chads and, and the Supreme Court, right? And the governor and his brother helping him. Like, at the end of the day, like, like that happened. But in this case, to the credit of like some sort of democracy that we have in this country, the Supreme Court, whom 3 of them were elected by Trump, voted against him. So it gives me hope that our institutions work, which have so many faults, so many faults, but there was some real genius behind the separation of powers and the checks and balances, because in this case the Supreme Court uplifted the will of the people. So that's one thing. But
right,
how we fight back against corrupt systems, and how it potentially, this backlash against the right could go backlash against the left, and unforeseeable future battles is to be determined. But for right now, I am not in fear of this being a slippery slope, as a lot of folks are. I think that this was the right thing to do, because this guy is literally putting lives at risk, and 5 people died. This is not nothing. This was,
I mean, for lies.
They were his ardent supporters,
They died for lies. Like, it wasn't even the right thing to do. Like, they haven't made the case. And I mean, I want to go back to what you're saying. Like, we're in, like, people being in different, like, realities and they can't communicate. I mean, that's like the crazy thing here that I feel like is a big part of this issue, right? It's like, and this even goes to like discussions about religion and stuff. Like, there'll always become like impasses in the way we see reality. Like, someone believes in God and someone doesn't, or someone believes in God but then believes contradictory properties about the God than the other person that believes about the God. So it's like, how do you, knowing that there are these impasses and we can't make agreements on these things, we have to have some other way of measuring and judging reality that aren't based on the things that we can't prove and can't agree on. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, that's the beauty of America, is the separation of church and state, right? It's right there. It's basically saying, well, I mean, we're not just going to arbitrarily make laws because God said so. So we'll have to use some other metric, and we're going to use, why can't we use science and data to make these kinds of determinations where we can, and that seems like the level playing field to make these kinds of decisions. And in this case, with Trump's, like, we take science, or they've audited all of these voting rolls. Like, they've been certified by all the counties, they've been certified by the states. They've failed. The lawsuits have failed, and the Supreme Court didn't take it up. Like, how many more things do we need to like agree on that level before you stop lying? So anyway, let's move on quickly to what should be done about it. I know you talked earlier about they can impeach because they can say, oh, we incited this insurrection. They could invoke the 25th Amendment that says, like, that's not happening. We already covered that, right? But apparently there's also this 14th Amendment, like there's a third section in it that says, like, you can't run for political office if you've been part of like an insurrection against the United States government.
Right.
So that's one other option that they might pursue that might be easier, because I think it has a lower, I don't think they need a super majority or something like they wouldn't have needed for removal and impeachment. Right. So I don't know. Do you think they should do something immediately about?
Yeah, I think from what I understand, they're going to try to impeach him because they have the votes. It can happen very quickly, or I think within a week. Before the 20th for sure. Like, in the House, the Senate, I think from what I've been reading and hearing, they're going to push that. Of like down the line. Like, there's no rush to do it if there's the votes to do it, and they actually don't want, the the hearings and all of this circus that is, of course, going to be, created by the likes of Ted Cruz and other idiots. Give them a platform, to just grandstand and talk about the, like unfair and undemocratic and rigged and blah blah blah, all this crap, right? So they're going to give Biden 100 days, so that's 3 months. So perhaps after that point, sometime down the line, maybe 6 months from now, they're gonna take up this issue. They'll send it over to the Senate, in which case they'll vote on it and be able to so potentially use the 14th Amendment, because this was as dangerous as you can get. And I think as more and more research gets done and more investigation into the culprits in this matter, we'll start to see a bigger understanding about how this was orchestrated and who was behind it. And I think it's gonna just come back to Trump. I'm particularly looking forward to beyond the legislative, just accountability, also the civil and judicial, or just a criminal accountability that could potentially happen. There's just lawsuits on top of lawsuits, criminal cases because of just that have been waiting patiently for months and years, that are going to just come, just they've been held back because you really can't go after a president like you could a normal human being. And a lot of these things he's not going to be able to like wiggle himself out of, or he's not going to be able to pardon himself.
I pardon myself. No, I pardon myself for all future crimes.
Yeah, like
watch out.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't be shocked at this stage. Anything could happen at this stage. You know what I'm saying? Like everything's on the table. If
try, but it does seems like it goes against a law that says you can't be a judge and a jury in your own, and so in effect you would be acting in a certain way by in your own case. Like you can pardon other people, it's not you, but you can't do it to yourself.
Right.
So, but yeah, poor Giuliani even might be in a lot of trouble because chances are that because Trump is just like completely out of his mind without his Twitter and his toy. So he's isolated, he's frustrated, he's angry, he's probably throwing stuff around, just on the ground, like kicking and like, just tantrum.
Having little, this is rattle.
Yeah.
Calm him down.
Yeah. So it might come to the situation where he won't even get around to pardoning some of these people that he could have, had he had like a stable head on his shoulders.
Maybe we'll see. Maybe it'll be a distraction. But you know what? I think that's it for judgment. We could go back to the Twitter ban, but I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, Twitter ban, good, permanent. Who knows? But yeah, like.
Wait, mine was Twitter ban bad. Oh, like bad, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, we're disagreeing. We're providing debate tonight, guys.
Yeah, not as much as the last show, but some disagreement. Yeah, I think,
we can talk about Julian Assange again.
Oh my God, we could talk about forced to vote too. Yeah.
Oh, do you want to?
I don't know.
Oh man.
I think I've said enough about that, and it's already like past. Here's what I'll say.
Yeah, I think it's past its prime.
Yeah, it's already like it's.
Doesn't someone have to put the coals under our politicians? Regardless. I mean, that's kind of Chris Hedges' position. It's like there'll be power, and then those who push power.
Yeah, I had a really awesome conversation last night with a very awesome person that will go unnamed at this moment, but. We've had him on the show before, and we'll have him on the show in the future. But he said, am I disappointed the squad didn't force the vote? Yeah. Am I going to cancel them and tell them to fuck off? No. What am I, an idiot? I can disagree with one of their actions. So what? I'm not a fucking child.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing though, because like, what about codependency and enablement, right? at what point, because like with anyone, there will be a point with someone in their conduct in your relationship that it's best that you separate. Don't you think so? I mean, so there's a line for everybody. That's what I'm saying. And some people have a lower threshold. That's all I'm saying. So like largely I'd agree. Like, I don't think we should abandon all of our political people, but I think if a few like people that have different kind of sensibilities, more that ones where they have more mistrust of politicians, if they want to, and as long as it's not everyone, I think it's fine, and it actually pushes them and it causes a debate. You know what I'm saying? But I think if we were all to abandon them, it would be a bad choice. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it's bad that we're peppered with people that are willing to say fuck you, because you know that's real pressure when someone's telling you to go fuck yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see it as all bad, but I mean, can't you see the difference between that? Like, I don't think everyone should do it, but if only some people are doing it, I think maybe it's a good thing.
Great, and those people can do that, and I don't want to work with those people because
hey, you don't even have to. I mean,
that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, yeah, some people should play that role, but by and large, those people, as I've come to understand, are really volatile, and at some point they'll turn on you, and you'll be the enemy because you didn't follow them on their strategy for whatever it is that they were trying to do.
Yeah. But I mean, come on, AOC. I mean, eventually AOC responded to Justin Jackson, but I don't even think she offered a very convincing response. And that's the other thing. Like, I'm kind of like 4/4 of the vote, or tell me what's better. And thus far, what have they done? Like, what did they leverage for that? So far it's rumored that they'll get some stuff, but it's all like, it's kind of like what I was saying last show. When it comes to the point where it's like, hey guys, trust us, we're negotiating behind closed doors with Nancy Pelosi. It's like, okay, I'll see it when I believe it, and I think that's a fair standard.
Yeah. Well, we tried to get Bernie in. He was obviously, many of us wanted that. There was a big difference between Biden and Bernie, and the bastard came back from the dead and a lot of help with the buddy Obama and the establishment, and just created this incredible comeback, and so then we were left with a situation where I don't want Trump. I believe and the past actions have proven that this man is insane, out of his mind, and dangerous. Yes. Even to basic civil discourse, and and is there times for us to to ramp up the heat on Congress and on congressmen? Yes, we should, and we can, and we have, and we did it with Obama, and we will continue to do that. And even the squad is not beyond accountability or pressing them and pushing them, but as it stands, they are the most leftist people that we have on there. And if we don't like that, then like I said earlier, run people that are more to the left that actually win campaigns. But until we do, we have to not blow up the lines of communication and not burn bridges. There's too many habitual knee-jerk bridge burners and not enough bridge builders, and we're not going to really build a momentum in this country for the things that we needed 10 years ago, and that people have been on the front lines organizing and fighting for these things like Medicare for all, or universal health care, as that was called way back when. And Bernie's was talking about it in the freaking 90s, bro, and we still don't have it. And because we kick and scream and raise hell, now, Bernie did that. He would go on crazy long ass rants in front of the Congress and would tell, and would vote against shit. And it was just him. Now it's more of him. Great. But we still are nowhere near, we are not going to have Medicare for all in the Biden administration. That is just a fact. We don't have even a smidge of the votes necessary to get us on there. Even if we had, a Pelosi to, give us a vote on it. We just don't have, the votes are not there. we don't even have the votes for $2,000 checks. Joe Manchin just threw cold water on that. So Green New Deal, No chance. We might have the ability, and I'm sure that he's gonna like reinstate some of the things that through executive order Trump pulled back as far as environmental regulations. There's gonna be tweaks that is gonna help stop the bleeding, and get us to get back to where we were, as opposed to like us losing again and to Trump, and then him just completely going berserk on environment and stuff. Before he even left, he opened up a bunch of places that were protected before to oil drilling and all this shit. It's been horrible. We've been losing, and we're gonna lose more, but hopefully we won't. We'll be able to turn back some of these things and actually focus on the things that we can win. What can we win? I think we have a good chance of immigration reform in this country. I think folks are we have potentially enough votes to get some sort of relief to the undocumented folks. I think that's potential. Continue to push on this police reform. I think that's also like something that can happen. And other things, that a $15 minimum wage, could be expanding Medicare for all, to get it to be for folks 60 years old. So that includes a lot more people. We lost elections. Elections have consequences. Progressives lost. We got our butts kicked, and on the presidential primary level. And so we just have to continue lick our wounds, get smarter, get better, and run winning campaigns on the local level, like we did here in Santana, like have been done in across Oregon, Seattle, like how AOC did, taking on somebody who was supposed to be the next speaker of the freaking House, and she beat it because Justice Democrats helped her and organized and learned the freaking rules of the game to actually win this. And of course they ran like how many other people, and it was like I think she's the only one that won out of 4 candidates. Which is all to say, even if you have a good strategy and good infrastructure and money, like you win 1 out of 4 times. But we need much more Justice Democrats. We need much more strategy, and we need much more and much less canceling and divisive and vitriolic, scorched earth, like grifting by people.
Oh, why is it grifting though?
It's opportunism and making money off of like scandal and debate and stuff.
But like, isn't that kind of the same thing you're accusing them of? You're saying they're putting bad motivations on people, and then now you get to put bad motivations on them. See, that's why I don't like this debate, because it turns into everyone calling each other a grifter. Like, can't we have a standard where, I'm like you're saying, if they cancel AOC, I'll cancel you. Like, but like, do 2 wrongs make a right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
grifters, people that are trying to like set up the situation where they foment anger and rage in order to build up their viewership, because there's always going to be a market for these type of people,
yeah, but do you really think they're disingenuous? Because like that's something you'd have to prove.
No, I believe that they really believe that they are right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's where they're coming from then. Like, and it's like, yeah, people do a show because I don't do the show because necessarily I don't want people to watch it. Like, we could just call each other and talk, right? Like, so it's like everyone does a show to promote their show. So I mean, yeah, I'm just saying that's a high burden of proof to say that someone's
fair enough. I think all people should stop calling each other names, like they'll stop calling each other neo-progressives and cucks and grifters and snowflakes and libtards. And I'm hearing people on the left calling other people on the left libtards these days. It's just, the conversation
is going to be
super toxic. Nobody wins. It's monkeys throwing shit at each other. And, and it's not. No, Cornel West is not a like Cornel West is, here's what I realized today. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they were both religious people with crazy deep principles. They lived a certain type of life, and they had very deep-seated beliefs. And they lived, and died on these things. Martin Luther King, of course, was a Christian, who's nonprofit nonviolent direct action was revolutionary, because these people had to really believe in it and succumb to getting salts and everything. Do you think something like that could exist in this moment right now with all these energies and passions? Like, hell no, because everybody's more on the lines of like, Malcolm X type, by any means necessary, like punch a Nazi. Like, we're not going to punch Nazis into utopia or towards peace or towards getting more people on our sides. It might feel good at the moment, but it's not long-term strategic. So I don't know yet what the answer is to it, but I know that this isn't it. I don't like the culture that is being, created by this, where, there's just all of our conversations and dialogues about each other happens online. Like, people can call a brother up, call folks up, talk about them, do it the old fashioned way. But all this whole stuff online and these conversations are just not conducive towards a better culture. And as Kyle Kalinske, perfectly put it, the left eats itself and the right, just eats popcorn and enjoys every minute of it. We're not going to win this way. And I want to be a part of like building a better culture where we can have, like accountability of elected officials and community members and everybody, while being able to rehabilitate and understand like it's a long-term, towards getting the things that we want, and we have to be patient. And it doesn't mean that we're apathetic, but it means that we know that change takes time. How long did it take before, like, the abolitionists, like, James, it's not James Brown, something Brown, the abolitionist, last name Brown, died, white man. So,
not sure.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Who actually getting, the things passed. It took decades. Hopefully it won't take that long for us to get Medicare for all, for us to get Green New Deal, all these things. But even still, like, in our pursuit for getting things that we need and we want right now, like, we can't destroy each other and ourselves in our letting us the rage and the anger overwhelm us.
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, there's a time and place for anger, though. And I mean, people have a different standard for what they're willing to, for the amount of BS they're willing to deal with. Because, I mean, come on, like, AOC was all like, look how powerful a one-term senator could be. Like, imagine the strength of someone who's not materially attached to their position of power. And then she's like, no, I won't force a vote. And not offering a better explanation or a better tactic, just kind of vaguely saying, oh, no, we can get $15 minimum wage. It's like, wait, Biden and Pelosi already support that. So you don't have to leverage any power for that. So it's like she didn't offer an answer. So if someone wants to call her bullshit on that, I'm more on the stage of saying, this is probably an honest disagreement about tactics. I haven't seen enough from AOC to warrant me calling bullshit on it. But come on, the response was weak as hell. Like, and so I can see why someone else would be triggered. As far as like, I mean, I get being angry, but trying to like, yeah, it's a fine line between actually trying to, like, what's the difference between pressuring someone to go through policy stuff and like destroying them on the internet? You know what I'm saying? Like, are they really destroyed because a comedian criticized you and said you're full of shit and fuck off, you're not with us? Or is that just a strong way of saying, like, you're not making sense, I think you're lying, and the only thing I can say is that you're not with us? I mean, maybe I feel like that's a valid conclusion based on the evidence, but it's not. It's one that I'm willing to suspend to see what else happens. Like, I still think it's too soon, but for other people it's not. And
Jenny says there's a time and place for course, and canceling your comrades and definitely does not work for your movement in the long run, regardless of what movement you're in. Agree. I don't think, Hallie says, I don't think she intentionally is bullshitting, but I think some establishment dens are manipulating her. You also mentioned earlier, Hallie, that Cornel West was supporting the force to vote. Yeah, and here's the difference. Cornel West is not going to call, like, AOC a fucking sellout and fuck you and this and that. Like, she'll be like, I disagree strongly with my sister AOC, but you know what? Like, I know that she, her heart's in the right place, and and moving forward, I know that there's a lot of things that she's going to do, because there's a lot of things that she has done for the people that can, speaks volumes of that. and that has done a lot more than most other people on Congress. So while we fight for what we want, let's work with what we have, and let's not like burn down the avenues of communication. Like that's what it has to come down to. Like it's there's a lot of things that we can and must do. Ivan Enriquez says invest in youth. Completely agree. Yeah, with the social media and influencers and how one person can say one thing and all of a sudden like it just blows up into this whole thing. Like the toxicity right now in our country and society is at an all-time high. Like it's people I've seen it locally, I've seen it nationally. Like folks just start getting overwhelmed with anger and frustration, and they start it's like you want to punch. When you punch, you're punching and you want to hit something. And if you can't hit who you want to hit, then you just be like, frick it. Like like the hardcore like mosh pits, when they're just like flaming and stuff, like they just hit anything and it feels good. Like, and that's what I feel like, and that's not sustainable. So yeah, it has a strategy involving political capital that we don't understand because we're not insiders in establishment politics. I also agree with that. And I think it doesn't necessarily have to be patronizing or condescending to say that, because this, Dylan. Like we could say like we want, the rent is too damn high. Yes, it is. How do we fix it? Rent control. Okay, well, what does rent control look like? It looks like a legislative body separate from the city council that gets to make decisions and resolve disputes, similarly to the way the Supreme Court resolves disputes between, the branches. So do we want that board to be appointed or do we want that board to be elected? Well, there's pros and cons in both ways, right? All right. So then that's one, situation. And then beyond that, like the bylaws, like what is allowed, the rules that allows for, bad tenants to be removed, because there are bad tenants. I've known people that, have been like, I can't get this person out of my house. They're horrible. They've ruined my property. And like, I need to get rid of them, but I can't get rid of them legally. Right. So, and also there's been situations with bad landlords where they get rid of people for any old reason, because they just don't like them. They're threatening to call immigration on them. So that's bad too, right? But it's beyond sloganism, like legislating our way towards the peace that we want. It's beyond like catchy slogans. It's really hard creating policy that works. Beyond the theory, putting it into practice. And also, like people can yell from the sidelines and, it's like, do this and do that. But Jimmy Dore is a comedian. He's never been, through the process of legislative, things. So he has his opinion and people can agree with it. But his credibility and the fact that he's never really been through that. So then I'm just like, well, I'm going to go try and trust people that are on the front lines and have been, like the nurses that have been fighting for Medicare for all for years. I'm going to go with them. I'm going to go with DSA.
And thus far have made no progress.
Forced the vote because they understood DSA being not a, like a whatever organization, very effective, efficient.
I'd like to see a membership poll of the DSA on that issue, because TYT came out against force the vote, and then they did a poll for their membership, and the membership was like 80% in favor of force the vote. So that was embarrassing for them. But I just responding to like the internal politics comment, like that's okay. Assume that's the case. Assume AOC responded to Justin Jackson and gave a weak sauce response saying, oh, we're going to leverage our political power for other stuff that I'm like $15 minimum wage. And it's like, wait, we already have that. And that she didn't really give a substantive, like that's the thing. If they had come, if Mark Pocan or any of those people came and responded to that and said, that's an interesting tactic. We don't have the thing yet, but like this is what we're looking at. These are the kinds of things that we're going to try to leverage in the future, and come up with some real stuff. It would have been like, oh, okay, or maybe we don't leverage it for Medicare. We leverage it for $2,000 checks. That would have been better, I think. Right, so there's even better options we could have gone to, but it's like pretend that it's just insider politics that we don't understand. Now we're forced into a position where they're basically not telling the truth. They can't tell us because they're negotiating behind closed doors, and now we just have to trust them. So it's like, yeah, we don't want to cancel all of our comrades, but when is a comrade not a comrade? Like, pretend like Polito just got elected and he's like the people's champion, and you're like, Polito's great, he's the people's champion, and then he doesn't deliver anything for you, and you're like, Polito's great, he's the people's champion, don't want to cancel our comrades, and another year goes by. How many years goes by? Where's the line? There is a line somewhere, right? And we all have to make that determination of when is the responsible time to cut off someone and say, you know what, you're lying to me, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. I'm willing to give people the benefit of the doubt that their line, they just drew it somewhere else.
Yeah.
That's all.
And I think that's valid. I think, your line is going to be different than my line. And
that's right.
And here's one example. Like, there's a lot of people that like Lou, support Lou, vote for Lou, campaign for Lou, get endorsed by Lou, and, endorse him when he runs. And I still work with these people, and I have a lot of reasons why, like, I disdain the man. Like, he's personally done stuff to campaigns that I've run, and it just, it's the bottom of the barrel, like the worst of the worst. But I don't like, shut down the means of communication with those people that surround these people that I don't like, because I still need them to do some, things for the community that I represent and stuff. And so that's that. And so, like, to your earlier point, like, there, like, there's going to be people even locally at the city level that are always going to be those people, people that be a needle on the side of folks, and things will never be good enough, and or like, they'll just be quick to, like, knee jerk, call folks out and just tell them that they're trash or whatever. And I'm just like, well, okay, but I'm over here trying to, like, think the long term, and I think that's a big problem with the left, is that we don't have long term. We're so short term in our punching and our need to, like, get what we want right now, that what the right and the conservatives have is that they have a 10, 20, 30, 40-year-old plan. Like, this is how we're going to get shit done. If we're not going to do it right now, it's going to take us this long. We don't have that on the left, and would rather just break down the conversation what it is. Like, when is it, like, too much? To me, like, AOC, given that she didn't take money from a lot of these horrible people that 90% of the people on the Congress, get money from, that's a win. Like, we have to count our wins as we're, continuing to push them, and, like, that we can do their job better than them. But it's not then to say that they are beyond accountability or, putting their feet to the fire. And so if people want to do that, that's fine. I just hate to see that people are like, fuck AOC, you're a fucking sellout. Like, that's not fun. That's just not going to get it done. But to each their own.
We shall see. Because, I mean, I feel like this has ignited a conversation about what the left has to do that we otherwise weren't having. You know what I'm saying? I think if this hadn't happened, we would just been like, oh, I mean, like, I feel like this has opened up a gigantic conversation about what the appropriate strategy for progressives is supposed to be that I don't think would have been had otherwise. So maybe that's your silver lining for this situation. So
yeah, it is my silver lining. Again, I think I don't have a solution. I just know that I think I get really Star Wars with this thing, and understanding, not to, like, polarize it, but it's just like there's the dark side, and then there's the light. And what is the dark side? It's this, fear, anger, hate, and all this gnarly energy that then just takes over one. And I remember when Josh Newman came on and he was just like, you got to be angry. It's like, well, you can be angry, but don't stay angry, because anger, like, clouds your mind and makes your, you unable to build true solidarity when you need, because not everybody that you meet, including your family members and your close friends, are going to agree with you 100% of the time. But if you agree with me 90% of the time, whereas that other side agrees with me 20% of the time, am I really gonna, like, burn it down because of you disagree with me this time. Like now, if you disagree with me again, and then all of a sudden it starts becoming not 90% but 80, and not 80 but 70, you know, like at what point? It's one of those things, you know. Solorio comes to mind. Like I think the man just was the worst of the worst, and you know, I was so happy for him to be gone. But when that guy voted for district elections, when Michelle Martinez, progressive, part of the Arab Spring, like voted against it for stupid reasons, like I'll never forgive her for that. Or you know, I mean, she's cool, whatever. But like I'll never forget that. I'll forgive her, but I won't forget that.
Yeah.
But in the case of that, I went up to him and I shook his hand. That was the right thing to do. And, you know, we shook hands. You know, because even with all my disdain for the man, I could still recognize when he did one good thing. But of course, you know, even a broken clock is right 2 times in a year.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, just responding to your light and dark thing, like I feel like to express those emotions on a regular basis is probably unhealthy. But again, like I'm saying, like there's a time for all things. Like fear protects us and allows us to survive in the face of danger. Hate allows us to like protect our loved ones from injustice. Like so, there's a time when these emotions are appropriate, right? But it's choosing the correct times to express them. So that's where I'll leave it on that one.
That's right.
But can you bring it back?
Tact.
Ow.
Tact is not something that folks are born with, and tact and political tact definitely not. It's something you learn, and it's about knowing what to say, when to say it, and who to say it to. And I just really would, you know, argue on the side of tact, which is not to mean respectability politics. Sometimes you got to tell people like that they're fucking up, but at the same time, you know, like I guys told you, like the UK's version of like, you know, like bah, 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 bah. Like we should do that here. Like I'm totally.
Oh yeah, I want to see that.
Yeah, if you're against something, like you should be like, yeah, boo. You know,
I swear we'd watch more C-SPAN.
Here. Yeah, like we should. Yeah,
way more entertaining.
Way more entertaining. Way more genuine. It's much more of the things that we need in this country.
Yeah, maybe even if there's some foam like paddles to like lightly hit each other with, I think we definitely get the American public watching. It'd be kind of like an American Gladiator style. Am I dating myself for that? Okay.
Was it Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Oh no! Team lizards or geckos or the iguanas. Oh my lord! Yeah, good times. Okay, well, let's spare our engineer. I think.
All right. I think he's over.
We've been naughty.
It says establishment politics are a marathon, not a super quick race, unfortunately.
Yes, indeed.
Big facts.
Big shout out to our fans or our viewers here.
Oh, Hallie,
Jenny Lynn.
Yeah.
Ivan's out there. God bless your souls.
I think that's it. Everybody else.
That was that's all. Yeah. Janelle's out there. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Cool. Well, Katie. Definitely. You put something, a GoFund. I can't click on it though, but so if y'all could just please register to vote for the ADEM, that would be awesome. So please do that, because we need to elect more progressives. So that's kind of something that needs to happen. So you have until midnight, so you have an hour to do these things. So please do that. I'm gonna. This is really tough, but it's officially become public. So our good friend, comrade for many years, Miriam Lopez, unfortunately, read this. It is with a heavy heart that we share that Miriam Lopez is fighting for her life. She's in critical condition, suffering brain trauma. Her family is asking to support to cover medical expenses and any incurring costs that are coming up. Miriam is a daughter, friend, and an integral part of our community. Please help keep her family in our prayers. Those of us that know Miriam know that she's been a fierce community advocate for the past 10 plus years. She's been organizing in Santana to transform the conditions for youth. You may have connected with Miriam through her work and dedication to her Santana community. She's been part of many different spaces such as KidWorks, SAS, Orange County Dream Team, OCYU, SABHC, Jóvenes Cultivando Cambio, el Centro Cultural de México, Noche Altares, Santana Public Library, Corazón de Mariposas, YPOC, Teen Space, and La Cash Fund, and other spaces. We know that these are hard times for many people, families, and we ask that you take a moment to donate, share, and pray for Miriam and her family. If you prefer, Venmo, Dulce Saavedra. So we'll share the link. That might have been what was shared right now, but
right.
I can't. I'm just at a loss for words. I worked with her for many years. At Centro and with Santana Building Health and Communities. She's just such a beautiful human being, and always had a smile on her face, and just brought together in so many ways. So our thoughts and prayers go out to her and her family. We hope, for positive outcomes. So, yeah.
Big time. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Katie. That's good to share that. Definitely donate.
All right. Well, so we dedicate this show to her and, and to all the folks, young mujeres in the movement that are fighting for other people. And and can have been fighting in all these spaces, because we need dozens and dozens more Miriams in Santana and across this great country, because those are the people that give me hope for the future. So,
big time.
Any final comments, Dylan Thompson?
No, well, it's going to be an interesting year, and looking forward to covering it.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's just so much, folks. I know a friend of mine that is her husband's in the hospital fighting for COVID. Just so much pain, so much suffering, so much struggle, so much things in the world right now. But we desperately need each other. We need to support each other and continue to be there for each other and figure out how to make this world a better place, because that's what we're about here on Itz Happenin show. So we're going to continue to do these things. So yeah, we have 9 more days. Yes, Hallie, until we turn a page. But unfortunately, we're going to say goodbye to the Trump era, but we're not going to say goodbye to Trumpism. That baby is here for us to take care of. This narcissistic baby that is
the movement. The movement that is a narcissistic baby.
Yeah. So, woo!
Okay.
Hooray! So I want to thank Edgar Silva for being an awesome audio video engineer. Iron Lion Media Studios. Message us to learn how you can get your own podcast and recording action with the Iron Lion himself, and Silva. So thank you, Hallie, Katie, and everybody else that was on the show tonight. Please like us, follow us, share this video. Let's definitely share the GoFundMe for Miriam. And it's been, and also follow us on Apple Podcasts, Instagram, Spotify, all those things, please. And watch past shows because they're fun too. From Dylan
Fun times.
And Joese Gloria and all of us here at Itz Happenin, we are signing off.
It's happening.